Ubisoft is not having a good year in 2019. Not in comparison to 2018, where they had a Game of the Year contender like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, as well as simply good, enjoyable additions to their franchises like Far Cry 5. It's surprising how their 2019 games have performed in contrast to their 2018 games. And let's look at those 2019 games. It began with Far Cry New Dawn, a standalone game that really should have just been an expansion to Far Cry 5. It used the same exact map with just very small changes. If you played New Dawn and didn't play Far Cry 5, you'd have little understanding of the story, with way too many references to things that happened in the previous game. The gameplay was essentially the same as Far Cry 5 as well, with just small changes that just weren't enough to justify calling this a new game. Next came The Division 2, a game I was looking forward to the most out of all games coming out this year, because I played the first game for 3 years. And to the credit of the developers, Massive Entertainment and Red Storm, they made massive improvements over how the first game launched. Reviews were good. It had a fun campaign with a fleshed out in-game. The problem for The Division 2 came in the year 1 content. As a looter shooter, you need to be consistently providing good, substantial content on a regular basis. Ubisoft tried a new approach where year 1 additional content would be free, but unfortunately, you get what you paid for. That free content was very light. The episodes that they provided have been basically a few story missions and a poorly designed raid. Not to mention they didn't bring forward the elements of the first game that gamers enjoyed. There was next to no build diversity, a staple of the first game. The first game introduced new innovative modes like the Underground, Last Stand, and especially survival. None of these modes are present in the sequel. It's as if Ubisoft forgot why people played the first game at all. Now, The Division 2 has a fraction of the player base that it once had in the first game. The worst of these 2019 games is unfortunately Ghost Recon Breakpoint. Breakpoint reused many of the same assets from Ghost Recon Wildlands, which released in 2017, and much like Far Cry New Dawn, it did very little to differentiate itself from the previous game. It's essentially Wildlands with a poorly implemented leveling system. Now, there are diehard Ghost Recon fans who are enjoying it, but it was mostly considered to be a disappointment by the overall gaming community and panned critically. And frankly, let's just be honest here. People are tired of that quote-unquote Ubisoft formula. You know what I mean. It doesn't matter what the name of the game is. The majority of Ubisoft's games feature an open world with a plethora of side missions and some main missions, story missions sprinkled in. And then you have to do these side missions or very few main missions to clear an area, and then you move on to the next. This formula has been used in Far Cry, in The Division, in Assassin's Creed. There are exceptions like Rainbow Six Siege and For Honor, but you need to have more than just a couple unique titles. And part of the reason that doesn't happen is the majority of Ubisoft's games are being developed by essentially 2 bigger teams and the same half a dozen smaller teams that are working simultaneously on multiple titles. This allows Ubisoft to crank out a minimum of 4 games a year, but it clearly has affected the quality of these games in a major way. So how has the disappointing games of 2019 affected Ubisoft? Well, they've delayed all their upcoming titles, including the much anticipated Watch Dogs Legion, and reports from Kotaku's Jason Schreier say Ubisoft is changing their mentality. They are only looking for games that are quote-unquote super unique. Now, I do need to commend Ubisoft for making changes when their games do poorly instead of doubling down on bad decisions. It's something I wish other major third-party publishers like Bethesda and EA would do. Hopefully, the hints at a single-player narrative-driven game set in the Division universe actually come to fruition, or maybe Ubisoft will go back to their roots and deliver us a traditional Ghost Recon game, or even Splinter Cell. Whatever games they decide to approve going forward, trying to turn expansions from successful games into full standalone titles needs to never be attempted again. And The Division needs to go back to being the game it was and not try to be like other loot shooters on the market. Gamers don't come to The Division to play Destiny. If they wanted to play Destiny, then they would just play Destiny. They came to The Division because it provided something unique and wasn't available with other titles out there. And The Division 2 is no longer providing that, and that's why people aren't playing it anymore. So it really does seem like Ubisoft is at a crossroads. Going into next gen, they really need to make sure they've learned from their mistakes and don't repeat them. And hopefully they do learn from that. Hopefully they do learn from their mistakes and become a better publisher that provides higher quality games more consistently for us as gamers. You guys let me know what you think about Ubisoft's change in direction. Do you think it'll be successful? What kind of games are you looking forward to from them? Hit the like button if you liked the video. Hey, hit the dislike button if you didn't like the video. It's all good. You guys take care. Peace.